What's good, everybody? You gotta keep just keep in mind I'm a little still under the weather. I've been dealing with like I don't know if it's like a stomach bug, stomach flu, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But I've been up chucking more interceptions than Will Levis throw this year. So there you go. Well, actually, no, I think Will Levis threw more interceptions than I have up chucked. So uh, thought you get a little TMI moment there for you guys. But I haven't done a Titans video in a while, and I've been kind of low key. Last year, this last season was a disaster to say the least. Um, we there was some things that were good about last season. Tony Pollard did get 1,000 yards rushing. Calvin Ridley did get 1,000 yards receiving, and I will say that the secondary of the Titans looked a lot better than they have in a very long time. But that doesn't say a lot about a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misconstrued. Now, we all know the Titans have the number one pick in the 2025 NFL draft, which is actually a couple weeks away. We're that close. And it's a very stacked draft, as far as defensive linemen and linebackers, the receiving core is very stacked, but the quarterback class is not very stacked at all. And, you know, that's where I'm being a little bit. I looked at what the NFL free agency was going to bring because everybody wanted to know where Aaron Rodgers was going to go, what was going to happen. Was the Giants going to pick this person up, or the Browns going to do this? Well, the Giants decided to bring in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Does that take them out of the equation of wanting Cam Ward or Shador Sanders? It's one of those things where you just don't know. The Titans do need a lot of help, and they need a lot of things. They didn't really show a lot of free agency as far as receivers go. Van Jefferson is not what you need. You only have Calvin Ridley, and yeah, you do have still Traylon Burks, but let's be honest, Traylon Burks was a disaster. He hasn't really been on the field to even catch a football, and how long it's been. Um, J. Rob, our general manager before Rand Carthon, made that mistake because when you trade away a caliber receiver like AJ Brown, who has helped the Philadelphia Eagles go to two Super Bowls and win one, and we have a draft pick who hasn't even been on the field long enough to even make a dent or even make a crucial amount of any stability at all. You didn't really address the free agency. Now I know it's still young. There's still time. They still will. But honestly, you got to look at it now, and you're like, well, the Titans need help in the receiving core. They also need more help in the linebacker position. They got rid of Harold Landry. Harold Landry now is with Mike Vrabel in New England, which I think is great for Harold Landry. I mean, Harold Landry brought in nine sacks for us this last season. He ain't been the same since he had that torn ACL, but he's still a good, solid football player, and that's a good pickup for New England. And we really didn't address that. I mean, if you want to say we did with Dermott Jones and with Lawrence Carter, I guess you could say we did. We still got Arden Key, who had about 6.5 sacks last season. But we really didn't make much of a dent. We don't have a lot of depth at the linebacker core, and we don't really have a lot of depth in the front end core. Yeah, we still got Javonte Sweat, who I thought played a very solid season as a rookie. We still got Big Jeff, and we did re-sign Sebastian Joseph Day. But we still need some more depth there. That's why I think a lot of people have been figuring out what the Titans are going to do with the first pick. Now, it has to be if someone like Cleveland wanted to trade up, or someone like the Giants still want to trade up, or someone like a dark horse out of the blue wants to trade up to that number one spot, it has to be something very big for the Titans to do so. Like, it has to be to where the Titans can still get a quarterback, but also get more draft capital so they can have more picks to fit the holes that they need. I don't think the Titans did a lot this offseason. Well, they did do stuff with the offensive line. Now, I will give them credit where credit's due. This offensive line looks a lot better than the one that we saw last 2 seasons. I don't know if I would have paid Dan Moore $80 million for 4 years, but to his defense, when you're in an AFC North and you're facing Myles Garrett twice a year and TJ Watt twice a year, if you're a left tackle, I don't care who you are, it's gonna be a hard day at the office. With Dan Moore now being left tackle, J.C. Latham is now back to the right tackle that he played in Alabama, so that's going to be a lot better there. Cushionberry's going to be coming off that injury, but he played solid for us as a center. I thought Peter Storosky played a lot better last year. I think he found his footing. And we addressed that offensive line, which is fine. Well, what happens now with the quarterback position? Now, Cam Ward had just had his pro day. The Titan brass was there. The new GM was there. Coach Callahan was there. And apparently they all said that Cam Ward had one of the best pro days they've seen in a very long time. And Cam Ward, coming inside this football team. Now, I know some people are looking at what the Washington Commanders did. You know, no one thought that they would be as good as they did having a rookie quarterback, but it changed the complexion. I mean, even Bo Nix, Bo Nix, sorry, changed the complexion of the Denver Broncos, got them into the playoffs. Is Cam Ward that good enough to change the complexion of Tennessee? I'm not so sure. I'm not going to be one of those haters that's going to hate on Cam Ward, but Shedeur Sanders, I feel like, is more pro-ready than Cam Ward is. I feel like he's more accuracy throwing than Cam Ward is. Cam Ward has a tendency to try to play hero ball, and that's exactly what we dealt with Will Levis, Mayonnaise boy. And I don't think we want to deal with that again. Now, some people have said that we should give Will Levis another chance because he played 2 seasons where he had Coach Vrabel's offense and then he had Coach Callahan's offense, and he really didn't have an offensive line to throw it to, and to have time to throw it. Let's just keep in mind one thing. Will Levis does have an arm. The kid can throw a football. And there are some times where when he's played, I'm like, wow, he's got some talent, but do you really want to go through another year? And that's where Tennessee Titans front office has got to ask themselves. I mean, I know Coach Callahan, his job's on the line, which I'm surprised they got rid of Rand Carthon, and I'm going to get into that here in just a little bit. But does Cam Ward save Brian Callahan's job? That's the complexion. Now, they can bring in a guy like Travis Hunter who can give them some corner help and help them at the receiving core. That could happen as well. Adul Carter would be a beast to have, but with Adul Carter, you have so much depth at the defensive end, linebacker, outside linebacker positions in a draft that you can skip Adul Carter and get somebody else. Adul Carter is a generational kind of player. I will give him that. I think he would definitely help in the area to where we lost Harold Landry. But you have to ask yourself again, do you want to trade down if you're Tennessee and get a lot of draft capital, take someone like Travis Hunter, take someone like Adul Carter, and then hope for the best with Will Levis again? Now, that's something they got to ask themselves. that question is if they can or they want to. I mean, the draft, like I said, the quarterback draft this class is not that good as it usually is. Now, next year you're looking at someone like Manning coming out of Texas and some other people that their draft class could be bigger next year. But do the Titans want to go through another losing season again just to get another high draft pick? And that's just something that I know as a fan here and being a fan of the Titans for so long, we kind of don't want that anymore. I mean, I know a lot of Titans fans are very pissed off. I got some who are coworkers who are telling me they are pretty much given up on Tennessee. And I don't blame them. I mean, I'm not going to blame them. I mean, giving up on a team that pretty much is giving you shit, giving you heartache, stress, silver hair like they done with me. I mean, it's like when you look at the Titans on paper last year, you look at their free agents when they brought in Calvin Ridley and Lavarius Sneed, and then they brought in Ernest Jones, they brought in Tony Pollard, they brought in Tyler Boyd, and you're like, wow, okay. We got a good-looking staff. And if you look at the games that we played, we should have beaten the Bears. We should have beaten the Jets. There's some games that the Titans should have won last year. And they found a way to fuck it up. Excuse my English, but that's exactly what they did. The Titans do have talent on that roster. It could be one of those things where is Coach Callahan really that good of a coach, or was he just that good of an offensive coordinator that was with Cincinnati that he just maybe that's all he is. Maybe he's just a good offensive coordinator and not a good head coach. Not every coordinator that becomes a head coach is a good head coach. But you look at Dan Quinn when he left Dallas and went to the Commanders. Look how good the Commanders are. There are certain coaches that can do that. Maybe Coach Callahan, or whatever we call him, Coach Callie, maybe he's not that kind of person that is the right fit for this team. I personally loved Mike Vrabel as a head coach here. We had winning seasons with Vrabel. Vrabel was very hands-on. We had a little bit of a culture with Mike Vrabel. We had that hard-nosed, old-school, hard-nosed hitting defense, run down your throat kind of. We had an identity with Mike Vrabel as a head coach. I feel like the problem that we have here in Tennessee, it wasn't Rand Carthon. I mean, like J-Rob, absolutely. John Robinson absolutely deserved to be fired for that stupid trade he did with A.J. Brown and you know, the whole trade with Burks. And everybody who's an Eagles fan, you're fucking welcome. By the way. Desert Eagle, and I know if you see this later, Brody, I'm saying that to you too. But I thought Rand Carthon actually had a decent draft last year. Maybe not the best draft, but he had a decent enough draft where they had some players like Brownlee, who came in as a defender and did a very good job when Lavarius Sneed and Abugier were both injured, and they ended up releasing him this offseason. So that was kind of a shocker there. But you have to look at this team and you're like, can they overcome it? Or because this is what we dealt with as Titans fans. In the early years, we dealt with them not playing good in the first half and then coming back in the second half. It's like this year it was different. It was like we played good in the first half, but in the second half we just went, I don't know, do I play football? That's kind of how it looked. And I know that we're about to have a new stadium that's in the process of being built. You know, you want to have a good team, but I think the problem with Tennessee wasn't Mike Vrabel, wasn't Rand Carthon. It is Amy Adams Strunk, the majority owner of the Tennessee Titans, the daughter of Bud Adams. I think she is the absolute reason why this team has been in such a funk the last 3 or 4 years. We were just a playoff team back in 2022. That ain't that long ago. We were in 2019 to 2020. We were a team that went in the wild card and went all the way to Arrowhead and played the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. That is with Mike Vrabel. Then we went to 2 playoffs after that with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year in 2021. But because Mike Vrabel wanted to have a little bit more control over his football team, which I'm sure Robert Kraft is going to allow him to do in New England, Amy Adams Strunk couldn't stay away from it. And now she gets rid of Vrabel. We bring in Coach Callahan, who was brilliant as an offensive coordinator for Cincinnati for 5 years, but also played under Denver with Peyton Manning. He also played a little bit. He also coached a little bit with the Rams, so he played a little bit with Matthew Stafford, and he played with Joe Burrow. Now, my biggest issue was we're bringing in a coach who's never been a head coach, and there's always you never know what you're going to get with that. It's almost like what they say in Forrest Gump: when life's like a box of chocolates, you'll never know what you're going to get. Well, that's what you get when you get an offensive or a defensive coordinator who's never been a head coach. You really don't know what you're going to get. And Coach Callahan, do I blame him for last season? Yes and no. I think he was coaching with a team that he really didn't know what he had. I don't think he had the right personnel, the right players to fit the schemes that he wanted to run. I do believe that. I mean, when you have a guy like Will Levis who was trying to play hero ball and made a couple of boneheaded mistakes, but then again, you have to look at it. Titans quarterbacks really didn't have much time to throw the football. And Will Levis was holding on to that football way too long at times as well. So you go back and you watch some game film, you can see him holding on to it. They did fix the offensive line this offseason, but I don't think they've done enough as far as weapons to solidify drafting a guy like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, because now, while you've given them all that time in the pocket, the problem is besides Calvin Ridley, who are you going to throw it to? Who are you going to throw it to? Now there's still a lot of free agency left. There's still be some trades that can happen. I'm sure Tennessee will work on that. But if you only have Calvin Ridley to throw it to, and you got Van Jefferson, and you still got a Treylon Burks on your roster, you really don't have a lot at receiving. Because Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, who you should have signed, who did a pretty good, significant job for us this year, you let him walk and he went to Miami. So now you're in a situation where you don't really have a lot to throw it to. Yeah, sure, you got Sure, you got Tajay Spears and you got Tony Pollard who can catch stuff out of the backfield. The problem is Tajay Spears couldn't stay healthy last year. And Tony Pollard, I mean, do you really want to just throw it to Calvin Ridley and two running backs? I mean, I know you got Okonkwo, who does a pretty good job as a tight end, but you need more than that. You need more than just those to throw it to. And if you can't do that, then I don't care who you put as a quarterback, whether it's Dart, whether it's the kid from Alabama, Moreau, whether you bring in Shador, whether you bring in Cam Ward. That is a lot for a rookie quarterback to deal with, especially when you have nothing to throw it to. At least when Daniels went to the Commanders last year, he had people that he can throw it to. That's the difference. You know, Bo Nix had people that he can throw the football to. You know, when CJ Stroud went to the Texans, he had people that he can throw it to. If you got nothing for a rookie quarterback and you got nothing for him, not only does that mess up the morale of that player, it messes up every chord for a rookie young quarterback. The only reason why I know this is because, you know, I played quarterback position most of the time I played football. So when you do not have an offense to throw it to, and I went through 2 seasons where I did not have an offense to throw it to, yeah, it's nightmare. And it's not a fun feeling. And it can mess with your psyche. It can mess with your morale. Now, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward both are very confident quarterback, very confident young men. And Cam Ward gets a lot of similarities from Steve McNair, which is nice and all, but my issue with that is, besides Ryan Tannehill, we really haven't had a really good proven quarterback since Steve McNair. And since Steve McNair's murder in 2009, there's like this dark cloud over that stadium. And I don't know what it is. I mean, we drafted Marcus Mariota in 2015. We thought, okay, this is going to be it. That didn't happen. In 2011 or 10, we drafted Jake Locker. We thought, wow, that's going to be it. And it doesn't happen. So now we're at that position where the last couple of times we drafted a quarterback in the first round, it didn't go over very well. We don't have the best track record in drafting a quarterback in the first round. Does one of those two gentlemen take that out? Maybe. Maybe one of those things where the Titans decide to get more draft capital. This is what I could see. Say, for example, Titans decide there's a dark horse that comes out of nowhere and decides that they want that first pick. So they give a first pick for next year, you know, like a second round and a third round for the Titans, and the Titans draft down. The Titans can still get a good player with that draft, and what they could do with that that other second round draft they got, that other second round pick they got, they can find a way to draft back up into the first round and get 2 first round picks and get 2 needs right there, which is a very possibility thing of happening, but it has to be a really good. And I like the fact that the Titans are playing this close to the vest. I mean, while they're saying all these good things about Cam Ward, you know, Mike Magazi, the new GM, is pretty much who comes from Kansas City, has pretty much said that we are going to draft a generational player. Cam Ward and Shador Sanders, to me, are not generational players. They don't scream generational players. An argument can be said, you can find a gem in the second, third, fourth, fifth round. Look at Tom Brady, who was in the 6th round. New England found a gem in the 6th round. And look at the guy that Tom Brady became. Tom Brady is probably arguably the greatest quarterback of all time in most people's eyes, and rightfully so. So now you have a situation where with Cam Ward, he's big, he's athletic, he's got a great arm. The way he flings that football does remind me a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, younger Aaron Rodgers. And it looks like, but the problem is when I see him play for the, especially when he played for the Hurricanes, Miami Hurricanes, I saw a guy who was trying to play hero ball a lot and was trying to throw passes in there that didn't need to be thrown to. And he was stuck with a lot of some interceptions that didn't need to be there, a lot of mistakes. And you're going to get that with a rookie because that's just how it is. I wish the Titans had decided to, and I know I'm probably going to get a little heat for this. I wish the Titans would have gotten Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, and the reason why I say that, because even if you did get one of them and you decided to draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, that gives them a chance for a year to sit under two guys who are two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and have a chance to learn the system under them. So then that way next year they would be ready. But that's how the way the NFL used to be. Now it's like, hey, we got a rookie quarterback. Let's throw him out there and let's just see what he's got. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. You look at a guy like Bryce Young, struggled his first year. Bryce Young started to get it together toward the end of last season. Like he started figuring it out. CJ Stroud he struggled a little more during his sophomore year. That does happen. Is the same thing going to happen to Nix and Daniels? I don't know. Maybe. But you got two good coaches there. You got Sean Payton for Denver, and you got Dan Quinn for the Commanders. So now, but you have guys like that who can come in there, and they're proven that they can be a head coach. My issue is Brian Callahan has not proven that he can be a head coach, and I'm not sold on Callahan. And, Tennessee was looking to get a receiver. I know they were talking about T. Higgins, but T. Higgins got re-signed by Cincinnati. Cincinnati decided to give him some money. They gave Jamar Chase some money. So now you can't get him. And it's just there's a lot of unproven things. You let D-Hop go. DeAndre Hopkins went to the Kansas City, went to the Super Bowl. Now he's signed with the Baltimore Ravens for 1 year. It's that situation where you don't know where you're going to go now. It's a make or break. It's a do or die situation. It's damn if you do, damn if you don't. That's how it is here in Tennessee. It don't matter who they draft. The Titan fans around here, the fan base is going to find something to bitch about. That's their issue. Some of them think that we should keep. There are some fans who feel like we should roll with Will Levis one more year. Now that he's with the same coordinator and the same coach now, maybe he might learn the system better because now we've got a better offensive line. Hopefully, a better offensive line. But do you really want to bet on a guy like Will Levis? Because yeah, he played for the Kentucky Wildcats, and I know the SEC are really good, and I can honestly tell you, Will Levis didn't prove a lot in Kentucky to be this great of a quarterback. This was a Rand Carthon hire, which is probably one of the reasons why he might have gotten let go this season during the offseason, which I still think Rand Carthon is a very smart-minded guy. His work when he was with the San Francisco 49er proves that, honestly. I don't know. I'm at this position now where I like what I see from Cam Ward. Cam Ward says all the right things. He's pretty much saying, if you don't draft me, I'm going to remember it. And he was arrogant enough to say that to the Titan brass that was there watching him on his pro day. And they're about to have a private pro day with him. I know they're about to have a private day with Shedeur Sanders. I know they're about to have a private day with Adul Carter and with Travis Hunter. Maybe there's somebody on Titans' radar. Maybe the Titans like Dart. I know that's weird for me to say because Dart really doesn't get a lot of talk, but maybe they like him better. We don't know. And I like the fact that they're playing it close to the vest, but I also love how these other Titan vid makers on here are all about they're going to go at the Cam Ward, they're going to go at the Cam Ward, they're going to go at the Cam Ward. I know that looks like that because usually what teams do is they'll just go after quarterbacks in the first round. That's usually how it goes. But Tennessee Titans might actually surprise people. And I would not be shocked if they drafted somebody else. I wouldn't even be shocked if they trade down and get somebody else or get the player that they really want and get more draft capital that helps fill the needs on this team. But it has to be a big trade that can make that happen. And right now, with the Giants, like I said, going after Russell Wilson and going after Jameis Winston, now the Giants have quarterbacks. And yes, I'd rather take an old, aging Russell Wilson over Daniel Jones. I'm sorry, I would. So now everything got changed because when the Raiders decided to trade and get Geno Smith, that took the Raiders out of the equation of trading up to try to go get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. That took them out of that running. So now you're at that situation. Now, Pittsburgh is an interesting situation because apparently they're linked to Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers hasn't said anything. He's been kind of quiet. That's typical of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is in no hurry to make any decisions and stuff like that. He can easily not come back this season. But Pittsburgh is a team you want to watch in the draft because I feel like them needing a quarterback, they may be the ones to be like, hey, let's give the Titans what they want. And the Steelers might go up there and try to get Cam Ward, or they might try to get Shedeur Sanders, and then the Titans might take Steelers' spot and get somebody that they want. It's in the NFL. They always say in WWE and wrestling, you never say never. You don't say never in anything, and that's what I've learned from the NFL over the years, being a fan, is that you got to expect the unexpected. And while Cam Ward looks like the big shoe-in for the Titans, and would I be upset if they drafted him? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be upset. I can see the high sight of having Cam Ward because, if you look at the Titans with their African-American quarterbacks, we got one of the best ones in Warren Moon, and Steve McNair is up there in our history as one of the best as well. Could Cam Ward be that guy that fits that mold? Maybe. I hope so. But the Titans need to do better of finding more weapons for this kid because and I feel like he is very coachable. He said some of the plays that the Titans run is what the Miami Hurricanes run, that he's used to running those kind of plays, which that does come in handy. I think the real reason why Shedeur Sanders is not getting the big quarterback nod like Cam Ward do, and I think a lot of that has to do with his father, who is primetime Deion Sanders. A lot of people are worried about having that kind of a headache with Deion Sanders around. And I think one of the reasons why is when the Titans tried to have an interview with Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders kept calling him while he was trying to talk to them. So I feel like Deion wants him to be in a big city market team, and that's where I feel like I still feel like Shedeur is going to go to Cleveland. That's just Cleveland's either going to get Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. That's where I feel like that's going to happen. But I digress. I don't know. I mean, I have this thing on Facebook with some of the guys that I've done TTC with, and they've all, like Fargo asked me, hey, where do you think? You think Titans should go after Cam Ward because they really haven't done much in the receiving and tight end core to implement that? Because now Calvin Ridley has no true number 2 playing with him. There's going to be a lot of double coverage on Calvin Ridley. And the receiving core is pretty steep too. Titans could easily get a good receiver in the second round. I'm not saying they can't. And I'm not saying they won't try to get some free agent receiver here again. But I'm looking at this and I'm just like, the Titans signed 2 quarterbacks in the offseason. Brendan Allen, who pretty much knows Callahan's system. That pretty much tells me that they're trying to get away from Will Levis. And that's something that I'm looking at as maybe Will Levis deserves another chance. I feel like if you got a better offensive line now and he's learning a system that he now knows, maybe that helps him be a better player. Or maybe Will Levis just really does stink. That's just one of those things where you don't know unless you give him a chance. But do you really want to? But that's something the Titans brass, that's something that Coach Callahan and the coaching staff has to come up with is, do you trust Will Levis another year? Let's say, for example, the Titans decide to trust Will Levis. Let's just throw this out there. For shits and giggles, they decide that they're going to trust Will Levis. And that first pick, they decide to bring in Travis Hunter. So now you have Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley, and they decide to go after another free agent receiver. Now you have the offensive line fixed. You got more draft capital. You start filling holes that you need in a team. Now it's no excuses for Will Levis. But at that point, you have to look at it. If you start struggling again with Will Levis, you really don't have a true number 2 at quarterback. So now Coach Callahan struggles again, which will probably be the end of his tenure as a Tennessee Titans head coach, because Amy Adams Shrunk's not going to deal with that. And I feel like if you were going to get rid of Rand Carthon, you should have gotten rid of Coach Callahan too, because they both came in, Rand Carthon hired them. So obviously you need to, if you're going to punish a general manager, the coach should be punished as well. So I am, like I will tell anybody this, I'm not sold all the way on Coach Callahan. Maybe I don't know enough about him. And what I saw this year was enough to, I can understand why if I was a Titans coach, I'd probably be smoking 20 packs a day. I mean, and I don't even smoke cigarettes, but I probably would start smoking if I was a coach of that team, or drink, whichever one. We need to establish an identity. With Coach Vrabel, I felt like we had that identity. And now Coach Vrabel is on a team that he really wanted to be with. We all know his history with New England. So now he gets a chance to call the shots in New England. And New England's got a really good young brass football team. And as a matter of fact, New England comes to Tennessee this season. And I'm pretty sure Mike Vrabel's got that checkered board on his wall. And I feel like a lot of the equation that's happening with Tennessee is management. Management is the issue with this team. And people are like, well, the Titans need to just sell. I'm like, I don't want them to go to another state. I don't want them to go to another city. But I wish, and I can honestly tell you, if I had billions of dollars and I was a typhoon here in Nashville, I would buy it from her. I would. And that's I feel like she's got the right, she says the right things when you see her in interviews. But one thing that bothers me about her is when she fires somebody, she doesn't do a press conference. She lets the person behind underneath her deal with it, or she lets the general manager deal with it. And I'm just like, look, I know you're up there in Houston and that's where you're at, and you're not wanting to come down here and blah blah blah, but I feel like the biggest issue with the Titans is Amy Adams Strunk as an owner. Um, and that's where I feel like if you're Coach Callahan, you know your job is being looked at. You know your job's going to be looked at. Does Cam Ward or Shador Sanders save your job? Do you go with Will Levis one more year? Or do you go, which I would have to give Poston this, Particle Hill this. You could, in the second round, draft a quarterback like Moreau from Alabama, or you can get Dart and have a quarterback there, and then draft a dual Carter or Travis Hunter in the first round. You could do that. But I think the Titans are going to be looking at this from a different perspective. They're going to be looking at it like, well, the receiving core is strong in the it's strong in the draft. The defensive lineman, the outside linebackers is got a strong depth, in the draft. So I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I feel like in some cases we're going to deal with a team that just is not going to be a very. There's a lot of things they can do. I do believe the Titans will take somebody in the first round. Whether that's the first pick, I don't know. Will it be Cam Ward? A lot of people here in Nashville, a lot of people in Tennessee, and a lot of people in the media thinks that it will be Cam Ward who gets the first pick. Now, Adul Carter has come out there and said that he feels that the best players should be the number one pick, and I agree with Adul Carter. I agree. I feel like the best players should be the first pick in the draft, but these teams and this team and the NFL being a offensive friendly, pass friendly league, players are always going to go after a quarterback first because they feel like a quarterback is the core of a team, which they are. They're the generals on the field, on the offense. You're the one, you're the captain, you're the general, you're the one who has to lead your troops in the battle. But when I look at this draft class with Dart and Moreau and Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, do any of them are a top tier quarterback? Are they really that top tier? Are they someone like a CJ Stroud who's going to warrant for you to make all those trades just so you can get up and get him? Is he that guy that you're going to warrant to, like a Peyton Manning or like an Eli Manning or like all these other quarterbacks out there? Would Cam Ward or Shador Sanders be in the first round with the quarterbacks from last year or from last season? I mean, you have to look at it from that perspective, but I think the Titans are looking at it more like the quarterback class doesn't have a lot of depth. The receiving core does. The defensive end, the outside linebackers have a lot of depth in this draft. Quarterbacks don't. Titans could be looking at it from that perspective, which, if they are looking at it from that perspective, You don't necessarily have to go after Cam Ward. You don't necessarily have to go after Shador Sanders. There's a couple other quarterbacks in this draft that you can get, that you can have behind Will Levis. And if Will Levis starts shitting the bed after the first 2 games, then you bring in a Dart, or then you bring in a Moreau and let them see what they can do. Because then you have that. And then next season, if you still have a losing season, and the draft and the quarterback class is probably going to be even better next year in 2026, then you have an idea of what you can do. But I don't know. I mean, it's a do or die situation. If they decide to go after Cam Ward and it works, I'm all for it. If they decide, hey, after meeting Shador a couple of times, we like Shador better than him, and if they grab Shador and it actually works out perfectly, I'm all for it. I'm all for what makes this football team better. That's what I'm about. I don't care which position it is. We do need some help. The draft capital would help. Having 2 first rounds next year would definitely help. And it changes things. But I don't know where we're at. I don't know where we're going to be at but we'll find out. We'll find out, ladies and gentlemen, in the next couple of weeks where they're going to go. And I can honestly tell you, do I think they go Cam Ward? In my heart thinks that they will, but my gut's telling me no. And they always say trust your gut over your heart. So I think that there's something. They just haven't done much in the offseason weapon-wise to prove to me, or to prove to any quarterback, what have they done? Van Jefferson? Whoopie-doo. No, that does not work. And if you're a quarterback, if you're a rookie quarterback coming into the draft and you see the Titans roster, you go, do I even want to play there? Do I really want to play there? Do I want to get my brains beat in? Those are things that run through your mind. But any athlete's they're going to go up for the challenge because you're an athlete, you're a competitor. That's what you do. I like Cam Ward's personality. I like his spirit. I like the fact that he's saying, hey, if you draft me, I'm going to make everyone else pay. But if you don't draft me and someone else does, I'm going to make you pay. I like that in a guy. I like that in a quarterback. I like that confidence. And in a quarterback, because that's what you want. You want your quarterback to be the loudest room. He's got to be the loudest guy on that field. He's got to be the one to defend his turf, his team. And that's what a leader does. Cam Ward has shown me that, but there's also that part where he walked away from his football team when they were losing too, and that kind of goes through my mind as well. Shador Sanders, I feel like, is more pro-ready. That's just my opinion. I think he's got more accuracy than Cam Ward. He's had a dad who's a Hall of Famer that's been teaching him for years. Even though Deion Sanders was a cornerback, Shador has the build to be a good quarterback. I think Cam Ward's got the better arm, but I think Shador's got the better mechanics, so to speak. But we'll see what happens. I know they're doing they're doing a private workout with Cam Ward coming up. They're going to do a private one with Adore Carter and a private one with Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders. So we'll see what happens. But if I had to guess, if the draft was tomorrow, don't be surprised if Tennessee takes Cam Ward and Cleveland takes Shador Sanders. Or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. If Cleveland decides that they want to give all this draft capital to Tennessee and Tennessee falls to number 2, Tennessee can still draft the guy that they want if Cleveland decides they want Cam Ward. But you're going to have to trade a lot of capital to get that first round pick from the Titans. I don't think the Titans are going to entertain the offers. Absolutely, and you should. Any smart team, whether you're a playoff team or whether you're or in the back in the old days they call it the lottery teams, doesn't matter. If you have a chance to get the best deal possible for your team, you do what's necessary. But what I'm worried about is Amy Adams Strunk being the one who is like, we need Cam Ward. We need a personality here. And Tennessee does need a personality. The Titans need a personality on that team. Shador Sanders would bring that too, but they do definitely need a personality. Someone who is going to be talked about, someone who's going to have the Titans be talked about. Because let's face it, even when we had Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry and all these guys, the media didn't talk about as much. They just looked at us as a team that all they do is pound the football and run off the clock and play hard-nosed football. They play like 80s and early 90s football, which I love that kind of football, to be honest with you. But I can see the Titans are not they're not a fun team. They're not a team that's going to sling it and throw, and a quarterback's going to throw 300 or 400 yards every game, and they're going to air it out and go like 30, 40 points a game. I think that's what Brian Callahan wants to do, but I don't think you have the right personnel on this team to do so. Anyways, though, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Nothing would surprise me at this point, but I feel like if the draft was tomorrow, they would probably go with Cam Ward. Is it the right pick? I don't know. Will it be? Hopefully. You got to be hopeful as a team, as a fan of any team that you have, whether your team struggles or not. You go through the good and the bad and the ugly. I'm going to support the two-tone blue boys to the day I die. That's just how it is. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's go, oh, I'm going to switch to another team and this and that. Because that to me is being a punk-ass bitch. Because you can't accept the fact that your team is just horrible. Every team goes through a phase where they just have to refurbish things. I felt like Tennessee was a team that didn't have to do that. But because of Amy Adams Strunk and her and Mike Vrabel not getting along and the word about Vrabel and Rand Carton not getting along, that's what happened. So now we're back into square one. And I know that she's going to blame a GM, which she did. And she's probably going to blame it on Coach Callahan. Because she's not going to take the responsibility for it, because that's not the type of person she is. She's a narcissistic bitch, to be honest with you. Yeah, I said it. She is a narcissistic bitch. She goes in that little smile and goes, oh, I'm so happy for my team and this and that. You say you're happy, but yet at the same time, your dad, when he was the owner of the Oilers and the Titans, he didn't mess things up. If you don't know how to run a football team, then you need to have somebody in there that does know how to run a football team. And that's just how I look at it. Maybe the Titans front office now that they got, maybe that works. I don't know. And I want Coach Callahan to succeed. I mean, he's got one of the best offensive coordinators. He's got one of the best offensive line coaches in his dad, Bill Callahan. I mean, he's got a good defensive coordinator. I love what he did with the Titans defense. The Titans just did not know how to stop the run last year. They knew how to stop the pass, but they didn't know how to stop the run. Like I said, the Titans kind of switched identities on that, because for the longest time you couldn't run on them, but you can pass on them. Last year it was different. Hopefully they find a balance this season where they can stop the run and they can stop the pass. That's what you need to do as a good defensive team in this league. But the rules in the NFL now is what makes offenses get so many like. I feel bad for being a defensive player. I really do, because you can't hit a quarterback here, you can't hit a running back here. You barely bang into a receiver and they call you pass interference. It's like it's just everything is an offensive friendly game now. And it was refreshing when you watch the Super Bowl. It was refreshing to watch the Eagles beat the shit out of the Chiefs because there was a hard-nosed defense that did it. And sometimes that still larks. And the Eagles proved that last year during the Super Bowl. They proved that defense still wins championships. And I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. Defenses still do win championships. Look at the Baltimore Ravens in 2000. They had Trent Dilford as a quarterback. Trent motherfucking Dilford. But they had such a great defense and such a great running back in Jamal Lewis. You didn't need much from them. But I feel like the Titans need to find that identity. If they can find an identity, again, and if they do draft Cam Ward, let's say Cam Ward's drafted. Let's throw that one out there. Cam Ward's finally drafted. He's with the Titans. If Cam Ward brings you that glitz and glamour and he brings you media, and he's bringing you media talk, which is what's going on with the Titans now being the first pick, everybody's talking about what they're going to do. That's good for this city. That's good for this state. That's good for this football team. But I'm still just iffy about drafting a quarterback in the first round that early in the pick, because the last couple of times we've done that, we did it with Vince Young, and that experiment didn't work. And I don't really blame Vince all the way. I do blame Jeff Fisher a little bit for that, but we tried it with Vince Young, it didn't work. We tried it with Jake Locker, it didn't work. We tried it with Marcus Mariota, and that didn't work. And I'm just when we tried with Will Levis 2 years ago, and it hasn't worked. Maybe the quarterback position with the Titans is just doomed. And maybe there really is a curse, a shadow that lingers through that field. I mean, I know some people don't believe in curses, but there are some sports curses out there, and maybe there is that. I don't know. But as a Titans fan, you have to be a little optimistic, and I'm going to be optimistic with it. And if they decide to go with Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders as quarterback, they got my blessing. Now, Shedeur Sanders would bring in a lot of revenue because of who his father is, and Shedeur Sanders is just as confident as his dad is. I've seen it in interviews. But Cam Ward also learned a lot from Deion Sanders as well. So now you kind of got two quarterbacks that will be very confident with themselves. And that's what you do need. You do need a quarterback that is very confident. I felt like with Will Levis last year, he lost that confidence. When he was with us with Vrabel and he came in after Ryan Tannehill, I saw a kid that had confidence, who had grit, who was hard-nosed, and I was optimistic about him. I'm not going to be optimistic about another young quarterback again. But let me know in the comments below, guys, what you guys think, and what do y'all think the Titans should do? Should they draft a quarterback in the first pick? Should they trade down? Should they get more capital? Let me know what you guys think. Anyways, I'm out. Have a good day.